Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that Doug collapses under the crushing weight of a truth he never thought he would have to face. For years he had convinced himself that despite the darkness surrounding the casino underworld, despite the toxic deals and backroom negotiations, at least his home, his marriage, was solid. Venessa was supposed to be the anchor, the person who grounded him when the rest of the world became a blur of smoke, neon lights, and false promises. But reality strikes harder than any enemy could, and it hits him where he is most fragile. Venessa has not only betrayed him but chosen Joey, the very man Doug despises most, as her partner in deception. The discovery isn't just a betrayal of love, it is a shattering humiliation, a public destruction of the identity Doug has carried. For him, the truth is unbearable because it confirms his worst fear, that his war against Joey isn't confined to business. It has invaded his personal life, his bed, and his heart. Doug had always known Joey was ruthless. He had watched Joey build an empire out of manipulation, intimidation, and wealth. Joey had that aura of danger, the kind that drew people in as much as it pushed others away. He could promise indulgence, power, and freedom to anyone willing to step into his circle. But it came at a price. Doug believed he was strong enough to resist that pull. But Venessa? She had always craved more than Doug could provide. The fine clothes, the glittering jewels, the dinners in high-end restaurants. Those were dreams Doug tried to chase for her but could never fully realize. Joey, however, had the resources to make all those dreams tangible. That's why when Doug first saw them together, not merely whispering in secrecy but fully entangled in each other's arms, his mind went blank. His body froze before the rage even had time to surface. The image of Venessa and Joey together becomes seared into his memory with violent precision. Her laughter, once reserved for Doug, spills from her lips with a sweetness Doug hasn't heard in years. Her eyes, which used to light up at the simplest of moments with her husband, are now fixed with desire upon Joey. And Joey, smirking, calm, unapologetically confident, looks directly at Doug as though to taunt him, as though to say, "I've taken everything that was yours, and you can do nothing." The degradation runs deeper than betrayal. It is Joey's calculated assertion of dominance. Doug realizes it wasn't simply about Venessa's choices, it was Joey's game from the start. What stings more than the betrayal itself is the shamelessness of it all. Joey and Venessa don't scramble apart when Doug enters the room. They don't even try to explain themselves with lies. Instead, Joey deliberately walks away, leaving Venessa and Doug to face the raw aftermath. That smugness infuriates Doug because Joey doesn't even consider him a threat. Doug, in Joey's eyes, is nothing but an obstacle, apathetic, disposable, irrelevant. Doug's fists clench, his body trembles, and for a moment he contemplates lunging after Joey, breaking every bone in his face, reclaiming some dignity in the wreckage. But Venessa stops him, her hand gripping his arm with desperation. Not for Doug's sake, but for Joey's. That single gesture devastates Doug more than any words could. She is protecting Joey from him, not him from Joey. When Doug finally demands answers, his voice comes out raw, shredded by disbelief. He asks her how long, how many nights, how many lies she had woven into the fabric of their marriage. Her reply is not defensive, nor apologetic, but blunt, cold, and factual. She has been with Joey longer than Doug dared to imagine. The deceit wasn't recent, it was woven through the very time Doug believed they were trying to rebuild. The truth paralyzes him because it shows him how blind he has been, how willing he was to believe in the illusion of a stable marriage even when cracks were everywhere. Venessa does not ask for forgiveness. She does not weep or beg. Instead, she tells Doug she wants a divorce. She no longer wishes to sneak behind his back. She is done hiding. Her reasoning is simple but brutal. Joey gives her everything Doug never could: security, wealth, the ability to live lavishly without compromise. She says she doesn't want to scrape by, waiting for Doug's plans to work, waiting for promises to be fulfilled. She wants comfort now, and Joey delivers. Every word slices deeper into Doug's pride. Doug responds in a storm of rage. His hand crashes through the objects in the room. Chairs splinter, glasses shatter, and photographs tear. Each destruction is a futile attempt to match the chaos tearing through his chest. Venessa remains calm, unflinching. In her eyes, the man she once married no longer exists. She has already moved on, both emotionally and physically, into Joey's orbit. And that detachment, that coldness, is what finally drives Doug to stumble into the bar later that night, drowning his agony in drink after drink. The alcohol burns, but it does not numb. Instead, it fuels his hatred, sharpening it into something darker. He sees the betrayal not only as a personal wound but as a declaration of war. Joey has taken his wife, yes, but more than that, Joey has stripped him of respect. In a world where reputation defines survival, Doug cannot afford to look weak, humiliated, or broken. His marriage may be over, but the story isn't. Doug's pain mutates into obsession, and obsession morphs into vengeance. As the hours drag on, Doug's thoughts spiral. He recalls every conversation he had with Joey, every deal half-negotiated, every drink shared at the casino's back rooms. All of it now feels like part of a larger, cruel manipulation. Joey had likely planned this, testing Doug, studying him, exploiting his weaknesses, and then stabbing him where it hurt most. Doug wonders how many people knew, how many laughs were shared behind his back, how many nights Joey boasted of his conquest. That humiliation sits heavier than the whiskey in his stomach. But even through the haze of alcohol, Doug begins to calculate. Revenge cannot be reckless, it must be deliberate, strategic, a strike that doesn't just wound Joey but dismantles him. Doug knows Joey thrives on power, respect, and money. To truly hurt him, Doug must attack where it counts. Yet, the complication that gnaws at him is Venessa. She is not simply Joey's mistress, she is Joey's ally now, fully committed to his world. Doug realizes she may even become his enemy in the process. That thought both terrifies and enrages him. The woman he loved is now a weapon wielded by the man he hates. When Doug leaves the bar, staggering into the cold night air, the city feels different. The neon glow of the casino signs no longer promises opportunity, it mocks him. The streets whisper of his humiliation, the shadows remind him of his failures. But underneath that, a fire grows. He may have lost Venessa, but he refuses to lose himself. Joey will not have the final victory. Doug vows that much, even if the path to vengeance destroys what little remains of his life. The next days are filled with silence and fury. Venessa has moved out, taking with her not just clothes and jewelry but pieces of Doug's soul. The house feels hollow, stripped of warmth. Doug can hardly bear to look at their wedding photos. Every smile feels like a lie. He starts avoiding friends, avoiding questions, because he cannot stomach the pity that will inevitably follow. In private, he relives the betrayal over and over, punishing himself for not seeing it sooner, for not being enough, for trusting too deeply. But alongside the self-loathing, the hatred festers, and Joey's face becomes the symbol of everything Doug has lost. It is in this broken state that Doug reaches out to Randy. Randy has his own reasons to want Joey gone, his own grudges and ambitions. Together, they begin to plot, though Doug keeps the personal betrayal hidden at first. He knows exposing it would make him look weak, vulnerable. Instead, he frames it as a matter of survival and opportunity. Yet, in the back of his mind, Doug knows his true motivation is far more visceral. It is not just about toppling Joey's empire, but about reclaiming the dignity Joey stole. The more Doug and Randy talk, the clearer the path becomes, but so does the danger. Joey isn't just a businessman, he is a predator. His power reaches into every corner of the casino and beyond, and Venessa, now firmly within his grasp, may become both shield and sword against Doug. Every move will have consequences. Every step will bring Doug closer to either vengeance or complete annihilation. Still, the pain of betrayal burns too hot to let him back down. His marriage may be over, but his war has only just begun. Doug's alliance with Randy quickly transforms from idle discussion into deliberate strategy. Randy is sharp, calculating, and far less emotional than Doug, which is both a blessing and a curse. Where Doug's rage drives him forward, Randy's pragmatism reins him in, forcing him to think with his head instead of just his fists. Together, they map out Joey's vulnerabilities, but every conversation circles back to the one inescapable truth: Joey's empire isn't just built on intimidation, It's built on loyalty bought with money and fear. Venessa is now part of that circle, and her loyalty, as Doug has already discovered, cannot be swayed by sentiment or memory. The thought of Venessa in Joey's orbit festers inside him like poison. Each time he sees her at the casino dressed in silk, dripping in jewelry Joey has showered upon her, laughing at Joey's side, it feels like another knife twisting deeper. She doesn't look back at Doug with regret or shame. She looks past him as though he no longer exists. That indifference ignites something darker inside Doug than simple anger. It makes him realize that this battle is not just about destroying Joey's empire. It is about forcing Venessa to confront the wreckage she has left behind, making her understand the weight of what she has done. But the more he stares at her from the shadows, the clearer it becomes. Venessa has already embraced this new life fully, and any attempt to reclaim her would be like pulling a drowning woman from the ocean when she's already chosen to let the waves take her. Randy warns Doug repeatedly not to let personal emotions cloud their judgment. Their plan relies on precision, on knowing exactly when and where to strike. Joey's arrogance is his greatest weakness, and Randy believes if they exploit it correctly, they can dismantle him piece by piece. But Doug cannot separate the personal from the tactical. Every move Randy suggests becomes filtered through Doug's obsession with punishing Joey for stealing Venessa. Randy senses the growing instability in his partner, and though he doesn't say it outright, he begins to wonder if Doug's hunger for revenge will ultimately destroy them both. Meanwhile, Joey grows bolder. With Venessa by his side, he flaunts his dominance more openly, parading her through the casino halls, hosting lavish parties, and mocking Doug indirectly with every public display. Joey knows Doug sees it, and that's the point. He wants Doug to feel powerless. To Joey, this isn't just about winning Venessa, it's about showing Doug that he owns every part of his life, that no matter where Doug turns, Joey's shadow looms. Venessa plays her role flawlessly, smiling at Joey, whispering in his ear, her hand lingering on his chest. Doug watches, seething, wondering whether she feels even an ounce of guilt. But if she does, she hides it masterfully. The confrontation Doug has long dreaded comes one night when he corners Venessa away from Joey's eyes. She's sitting at the casino bar, alone for once, sipping champagne. Doug approaches her with fire in his eyes, demanding answers. Demanding to know how she can stand by Joey when she knows what he's done to them. Venessa doesn't flinch. She tells him plainly that Joey gives her everything she wants: stability, wealth, and a future Doug could never provide. She doesn't deny their past, but she dismisses it as just that past. "You are a dreamer, Doug," she says, her voice steady. Joey is a man of action. Her words strike harder than any physical blow. Doug realizes then that Venessa hasn't been coerced or manipulated. She has chosen this life willingly, consciously. She isn't trapped by Joey's influence. She's enthralled by it. That clarity devastates Doug but also sharpens his resolve. If she cannot be swayed, then she must be treated as an enemy too. The war escalates quickly. Doug and Randy set traps in the business underbelly, undermining Joey's deals, leaking information, and targeting his allies. Slowly, cracks begin to form in Joey's empire, though Joey remains unaware of the full scale of the conspiracy. Venessa, however, grows suspicious. She senses Doug's hand in the sudden failures and warns Joey. Her loyalty is unwavering, and she becomes Joey's confidant, advising him on how to counter the unseen threats. Joey listens because he knows Venessa understands Doug better than anyone. The betrayal cuts deeper when Doug learns that the very woman who once knew his secrets is now weaponizing that knowledge against him. Tensions reach a breaking point when Doug attempts a direct assault on Joey. He follows Joey into the casino's back room one night, rage boiling over, ready to end everything with his own hands. But Venessa intervenes again, stepping between them, her eyes blazing not with love but with fury. She defends Joey, her voice rising as she tells Doug he has no claim over her anymore. She belongs to Joey now. The words echo in Doug's head long after the confrontation ends, and he realizes with horror that Venessa no longer views their marriage as a tragic mistake. She views it as a chapter closed, forgotten, irrelevant. That night, Doug's descent reaches its darkest point. Alone, consumed by despair and rage, He contemplates whether revenge is even worth it if it means destroying the last remnants of the love he once had. But the image of Joey's smug grin, the memory of Venessa's betrayal, reignite the fire. He convinces himself that he isn't just fighting for himself anymore, he's fighting for justice, for dignity, for every man who has ever been betrayed and humiliated. Randy, however, grows increasingly uneasy. He sees Doug losing himself, consumed by vengeance, unable to think clearly. Randy warns him that obsession will cloud the mission, that Joey cannot be defeated through emotion but through calculated strategy. Doug nods, pretends to listen, but in truth he is already lost to his obsession. He no longer sees Joey as a man to be toppled, sees him as a monster to be slain, no matter the cost. As Doug spirals further, Venessa thrives. Her new life with Joey elevates her into the role she always dreamed of. She becomes the queen of his empire, adorned with jewels, her presence commanding respect from everyone around her. Yet behind her smile, there are cracks. Late at night, when Joey is busy plotting his next move, Venessa sometimes stares into the mirror, questioning whether the price of her new life was too high. She tells herself it was worth it, that Doug's world was too small, too fragile, that she made the right choice. But the guilt lingers, haunting her like a ghost she cannot banish. The inevitable climax builds as Doug finally decides to confront them both head-on. He storms the casino, no longer hiding in shadows, no longer scheming quietly. His entrance is a declaration of war, his eyes blazing with fury, his voice echoing with threats. Joey rises to meet him, calm and confident, Venessa at his side like a queen defending her king. The room crackles with tension, the air thick with a weight of years of betrayal, rage, and love twisted into hate. Doug demands Venessa choose. For one last time, he asks her to remember their life, their vows, their history. But Venessa shakes her head, her voice firm. "I've already chosen." Those words break him completely. The man who once believed in love, who once dreamed of a future, now sees only ashes. And in those ashes, all that remains is the hunger for Joey's downfall. The standoff doesn't end that night, but it sets the stage for the inevitable destruction to come. Doug leaves the casino with his fists clenched, his mind racing, knowing the final confrontation is near. Joey has taken everything from him: his wife, his dignity, his peace. Now Doug will stop at nothing to take everything from Joey, even if it means burning himself in the process. The story barrels toward an ending that cannot be peaceful. 3 lives intertwined by love, betrayal, and vengeance, each driven by choices that cannot be undone. Doug's obsession, Venessa's ambition, Joey's arrogance, together, they create a storm that promises only destruction. And when that storm finally breaks, none of them will walk away unscathed. The final confrontation does not come with warning, but with inevitability. Doug has reached the edge of himself, stripped down to nothing but his thirst for vengeance. Joey has grown too confident, too comfortable, and Venessa has bound herself too tightly to a man whose empire thrives on enemies. All the plotting, all the betrayals, all the whispered threats boil down to one night where everything collides. It begins with Randy's last attempt to steady Doug. He warns him that walking into Joey's world without a plan is suicide, that revenge is useless if it ends with Doug in a shallow grave. But Doug no longer listens. His obsession has calcified into certainty. He tells Randy he doesn't care if he dies, so long as Joey and Venessa fall with him. Randy sees then that Doug is not the partner he thought he had, but a man too far gone. He refuses to follow Doug into the fire. That leaves Doug alone, and alone is exactly how he feels he must be when he takes back what Joey stole. The casino hums that night with the reckless energy of gamblers chasing fortune. Joey holds court in his private suite, Venessa glittering at his side, the two of them surrounded by laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. But beneath the glamour, there is an undercurrent of unease. Venessa notices it first, the way the staff glance toward the door, the way the noise of the casino outside feels sharper, heavier, as though something is waiting to break. She knows instinctively that Doug is near. She doesn't tell Joey at first, because some part of her wants to see what Doug has become, how far he will go. When Doug finally enters, he doesn't sneak or hide. He walks straight into the suite, every eye snapping toward him, the weight of his presence cutting the air like a blade. He looks nothing like the man Venessa once married. His face is hard, his eyes hollow, his movements sharp with rage. For a moment, silence fills the room before Joey laughs, slow and mocking, as though Doug's arrival is nothing but entertainment. Doug's voice cuts through the laughter. He doesn't speak in riddles or threats. He tells Joey that everything ends tonight. He tells Venessa that this is her last chance to walk away, to prove that there is something human left inside her. Venessa meets his eyes without flinching and shakes her head. She says she has already made her choice, and her place is here, with Joey. The words kill whatever scraps of hope lingered in Doug's chest. In that instant, he no longer sees Venessa as his wife but as Joey's accomplice. The heartbreak burns away, leaving only fury. He lunges, and chaos erupts. Guards move, but Doug's rage makes him feral. He fights with the strength of a man who has nothing left to lose, striking with wild precision, breaking through the wall of protection between him and Joey. Joey rises, his smirk gone, replaced by the cold calculation of a predator forced into battle. The struggle between them is brutal, primal. Years of resentment explode into fists, blood, and shattered glass. Doug fights like a man possessed, but Joey, too, is no stranger to violence. Each blow feels like the past itself tearing apart. The lies, the betrayals, the humiliation, all manifest in the clash of their bodies. Venessa screams, not out of love for Doug but fear for the empire crumbling before her. She tries to intervene, grabbing at Doug, clawing at his arm, desperate to protect Joey. But in the frenzy, Doug shoves her aside, and she crashes against the table, the jewels on her dress scattering like broken promises across the floor. For the first time, Venessa looks small, fragile, stripped of her queenly veneer. The fight drags on until both men are broken, bloodied, gasping for breath. Doug manages to pin Joey, his hands tightening around his throat, the end finally within reach. But then his eyes meet Venessa's, her face twisted in terror, her voice shrill as she begs him to stop. Not for Doug, not for love, but for Joey. That final wound cuts deeper than any blade. Doug hesitates, and in that hesitation, Joey seizes the moment. A hidden blade flashes, and suddenly the tables turn. Doug staggers back, the wound sharp and fatal, the fire inside him bleeding out with his life. As he collapses, the room spins, his vision blurring. He hears Venessa's voice, soft but distant, as she rushes to Joey's side. She doesn't even look at Doug, doesn't whisper his name, doesn't mourn. The last thing Doug sees is her hand clutching Joey's, her eyes filled not with regret but with resolve. She has chosen her king, and Doug dies knowing his wife's love was buried long before his body. But Joey does not leave unscathed. The damage Doug inflicted is irreversible. His empire is cracked, his reputation scarred. Word spreads quickly through the casino world that Joey bled, that he was nearly destroyed by a man who had already lost everything. The illusion of invincibility shatters, and enemies long silent begin to stir. Joey survives, but the empire he built will never be the same. Venessa, draped once again at Joey's side, realizes too late what she has sacrificed. She has won the wealth, the status, the life she dreamed of, but at the cost of love, at the cost of her soul. Doug's blood stains her memory, haunting her with whispers of the life she abandoned. Joey may protect her for now, but deep down she knows she has tied herself to a man whose kingdom is crumbling, and when it falls, she will fall with it. The story closes not with victory but with ruin. Doug's vengeance consumes him, Joey's empire begins to rot from within, and Venessa finds herself trapped in the very gilded cage she once longed for. None of them walk away unscarred. Doug dies broken but defiant, Joey survives but hollow, and Venessa remains queen of ashes, clutching jewels that will never silence the ghost of the man she betrayed.